Firstly, thank you everyone for coming this morning. I know it's a Sunday and probably inconvenient, but we thank you because we're in an area our game has never been in before. It's certainly one of the greatest challenges for us to stay viable in the history of the game. So I just want to start from the outset to say that any decision we make today may change tomorrow. This situation is fluid and is changing by the hour. We'll continue to take the best of expert advice, including what we have done to date, and that is the government and chief medical officers' information, and we've always acted on that advice. All decisions that we will make will have the safety and the health of our players as the paramount consideration. That also includes our staff and any other person involved in our great game. In this regard, we're leaving every option available to us on the table. Because it's changing so quickly, we would be silly to go one direction. So we are going to review all options, including isolating players, including suspending the season. In order to have the best expert advice, we have commissioned a biosecurity expert. We've also commissioned a pandemic expert. We need to have the best available information to us to make the best decisions. We are going to act in accordance with that advice. In the interim, we will continue round two. At this stage, we will play round two and assess the situation. It gives us that time to consider the biosecurity expert advice, the pandemic advice. It gives us time to consult our players, our staff, and all the other participants in our game.
Yeah, the game very much in uncharted territory, but as you heard there from Peter V'Landys, it is committed to ensuring the health and safety of all its players and all of those stakeholders involved in rugby league. We're going to head back to James Hooper. Hoops, everything, as we heard there, is on the table. What are the options, though, that are being seriously considered behind closed doors?
Well, some of the options being considered, Lara, are games being played in front of empty stadiums in Darwin, games being played in front of empty stadiums in Brisbane. Also, the same can be said for Sydney. Paramount is that they try and quarantine players and make sure that they are isolated from any sort of exposure whatsoever to the coronavirus. As of Tuesday, Todd Greenberg and Peter V'Landys will go and see the New South Wales Health Minister. They'll try and ensure that all players are tested. We get the results of that extremely fast-tracked, and then we can try and take the next steps from there. In relation to Peter V'Landys being on the front foot about the fact that they need to go and speak to the government, I support that move. There's a $17 billion stimulus already outlined around this coronavirus, and rugby league is such a huge part of the Australian way of life and the Australian community. So I think Peter's doing the right thing by trying to ensure that the sport can continue to be played at this time, Lara.
Reedy, we're talking about the different options available to rugby league. We know Wayne Bennett came up with the Magic Round concept. Is that actually a reality? Is that a possibility?
Well, as Hoop said, it's one of the options they're looking at. They're looking at a whole series of them because they want to. The idea there would be they cocoon the players away. The players are protected and also, almost isolated from the virus itself. You know, whether it's feasible, it costs a lot of money. You've got to find obviously a place to house them all, that's got accommodation and all that sort of thing. But it's just one of the options. There are a lot of options they're looking at the moment. Because the great fear is, look, they can handle one player getting it, right? Because that knocks out maybe one team and the team that played the previous week. You could live with that. You could have one less game a weekend. The fear is that 5, 6 players across 5, 6 clubs get it, then you're in real trouble. So if they can cocoon the players off, put them in an area together, you protect yourself against that, theoretically.
Mal, as someone involved at Clubland, I'm sure you can appreciate already what the Warriors have had to do to sacrifice by staying here the week. They don't know what the future holds for them. What is your reaction to the possibility of
well, we don't panic, Lara. That's the first thing, and I think we need strong leadership, not only within the game, but obviously from a government point of view. You know, I think that the Prime Minister and his cabinet, plus all the premiers of the states, they need to continually show strong leadership, making sure that everyone's not panicking. For us, I think from a footy point of view, I think the knowing and understanding is king. So, I mean, the more information that the clubs have, the coach has and the players, No. I think they're better to prepare for games. Playing in empty stadiums, I think that shouldn't cause too many hassles for the players. They can only control what they control. So I mean, for me, it's about just understanding, and Peter V'Landys mentioned it, and everyone's mentioned how fluid this could be. So just making sure we're updated information, that we understand what's going on, so you can plan for it. And like the Warriors as an example, they've made a commitment to stay in Australia for the next couple of weeks, to play over here. I think that's a sound solution, but tomorrow it may change. We don't know. So I mean, it's an uncertain world we live in at the moment. But the more information we have, the better we're going to make decisions.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison just addressed the nation, saying that from midnight tonight he's ordered all international travellers to self-isolate for 14 days. So that adds more complexity to coming and going from Australia. We already know New Zealand doing that today. Braith, as a former player, how do you think they would be reacting to all of this and to the possibility that they themselves, all 16 teams, will be isolated from family for a long period of time if they do take the competition somewhere else?
Firstly, I think it's been really good leadership. And the first thing that V'Landys said is, what decision I make today may change tomorrow. So, this isn't set in stone, and they'll make decisions on the run, which is, I think, what they should be doing. As a player, I tried to put myself in the players' shoes right this morning watching that press conference. Very scary times. I mean, there's repercussions of the game not going ahead in terms of pay, looking after your families, paying the rent, and the NRL pays these players. I mean, essentially, that's where their income comes from. So if you're going to look at it from a player's perspective, they'll be looking to get on that field no matter what. Yes, you have to, just for the Warriors, for instance, may need to sacrifice a week, two or three away from their family. Now, if I'm those players, I'd be happy to do that for now, for the betterment of the game. Yes, if it takes 4 or 5, 6 weeks away from your family, that changes. That's difficult. That's really difficult. I understand that and I appreciate that. But I think you look at the big picture, and if you're a player, you want to get on that field every week at the moment and play, because it's scary that your future is so uncertain at the moment just because of this coronavirus. It's a tough time.